war is part of humankind. For one or the other reason, even if I wish it would be different, the human being has something with war. So I think that it is our duty, the duty of humankind, to try to contain that urge of aggression, to contain the urge to war, certainly realizing what the costs could be. If you look at Japan, Japan has always, first of all, in 1945, despite you've got Article 9 of the Japanese Constitution, which says that Japan cannot pursue military actions abroad, and which is one of the things that the Prime Minister now wants to withdraw from. But apart from that, large structures of Japanese framework were continued to live on, including the symbol of the emperor and so on. And so you never had an equivalent of a denazification. So that the myth that existed in some quarters of Japanese society that the war, Second World War, was a kind of justified war, lived on. And one clear example is Japanese leaders visiting the Yasukuni shrine, where also Japanese war criminals are commemorated, and that's something that is completely unthinkable in Germany or Italy, but that is a huge difference with Japan. But as said, I think that the main difference is that Germany and Italy have chosen for an integration and a very strong collaboration with their former enemies. So the countries who were enemy 10 years later in the late 1950s, they had become friends and they worked together. And they never choose, nor Germany nor Italy, never choose an isolationist stance, which is a characteristic of Japan, which is still both culturally but also politically an isolated and also isolationist country. Prime Minister Takaichi is a clear product of that deficit of acknowledging the past. So if you consider the acts of your government in the Second World War as justified, then it's logical that she thinks that Japan again has a role to play in foreign policy and certainly in military matters. So I think it is a consequence of the complete lack of historic understanding, and also a big lack of empathy from the Japanese side, which I think has to do with their isolationist policy and culture. It's a great lack of empathy towards those countries and those people who have been victimized by Japan in the first half of the 20th century. Certainly China in the 1930s and 40s, but also Korea even in the decades before that. I mean, the acts of the Japanese in the Second World War and in the acts of aggression before the Second World War have caused national traumas, national and individual traumas, with a lot of families within China, within Korea, within Indonesia, and all the other countries where they were aggressively involved. And so it's quite understandable that if Japan decides to take a new aggressive or at least assertive military stance, that there is a growth of unrest in these countries, certainly because Japan has never acknowledged the fact that the Second World War was an unjustified war on their end, and that war crimes were committed. But again, Taiwan, I find it very strange because the island was also one of the victims of Japanese aggression, and to a large extent so. It's a very, very, very good example to show where a lack of understanding of the past, and certainly a lack of historical empathy with formerly aggressed nations can lead to.